Hey, hello there. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown. That's not true. Sim Strategy Show. Always mess that up. There's so many shows every week, man. Welcome to the Strategy Show Sims Edition. One of my favorite shows of the week because we finally have a bunch of refined data. And not only that, it comes from the fact that you get practice reports throughout the week. So you get the first look show, you get the lineup building show, which I actually think will still be pretty similar. So there's still some quality shelf life to that and some evergreen, at least going into the week. And then, of course, with this, we get to see where things are shaping up. We'll have more clarity on some of these spots, as we get into like after today's practice report. If you have no practice at all for some of these guys, we'll have a pretty good idea. But I still think we're in a pretty good spot to have a pretty good show. Outside of the fact that coming down with a bit of a cold here, I don't need any sympathy. Don't worry. However, I will say my brain works at like half speed whenever I'm dealing with a cold. And I will women handle sickness way better than men do. Anybody that argues against that is a liar. Okay. Like my wife could get sick, Greg, and she's still running around the house and doing this with the kids and doing all of this. With me, man, you get me a wicked cold or a sinus infection, you got to leave me alone. And then what happens is she'll be like, all right, she'll come help me out, take care of me. Even if I'm laying up there in bed for a little bit, she'll be like, you want some coffee, you want something to eat. Anyone that's married, I can tell you this much, let that go on for more than 12 hours. And they start hitting you with like, all right, you're fine. You know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, I did what I could. They try very hard. And then a little bit later, like the next day, you're still not feeling good. You don't get that same sympathy. So far, I'm okay. I'm making it. But if I stop, we'll see where it goes. Anyway, enough about me. What's up, man?
It's good design that we're not the ones who get pregnant.
Oh, my God.
It's just good design.
Oh, my God. No chance. No chance. Yeah, you have to quit doing anything that's not even remotely healthy for you. And then, no, we wouldn't make it.
Yeah. Like, what if I only drink once per week?
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Jake said opposite in my house. You swear my wife has the plague every time she has a head cold. All right. Maybe I'm wrong, but I will say for the most part, I'm accurate in saying that. Like we handle other things much better for sure. Like emotional pain, right? Or just emotions in general. However, when it comes down to the cold or getting sick, I think they handle it a lot better. Anyway, glad to have you guys here. Good morning. Happy Friday. Heading into the weekend for a really fun Week 11 slate where you'll see what the results look like. I took a sneak peek before, so I will bury the lead for a second. If you don't mind, take a second, atone for your sins this fine morning. If you think this content helps you, if you enjoy, maybe it helps get you through the day even. As we head into the Sunday slate, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And if you're in podcast form, we see you guys out there. You hear us. Leave a rating, a review. Appreciate you in advance. What's going on, man? This is a Week 11 slate where I think like last week, you had so many of these quarterbacks that looked great. It isn't to say that there aren't some appealing games this week. I don't think the quarterback position is as loaded. And this might be the first week in a while where I concentrate exposures around a handful of players.
Could definitely end up being the case. That's of the things that have changed since we did the show on Wednesday. The biggest one is that Marvin Harrison has been ruled out. And that was one, it's an appendectomy. That came literally out of nowhere, the Marvin Harrison situation.
Yeah,
so that is creating a little bit of extra value as far as pass catchers go. That is like the one big change from Wednesday. But the other thing that you said has not changed. There's still not a dominant quarterback play who you look at and be like, that's the guy whoever is going to be playing in single entry and is going to be super popular or anything like that. So I do think that there are a couple of guys who are going to be like staples in my lineups that I'm going to be very heavily exposed to. But other than that, I think it's going to be a lot of stacks, game stacks, just kind of built around some of the individual pieces that we're going to like.
I think you're on the right track for sure. And also, Ray, Can we share a little love for Laffy and Greg for their Fields for fantasy recommendation? Yeah, where's Blood Rain 316 when you need him? He said, I'm leaving this show because these guys just want to play Justin Fields. Was fine.
He was the second highest scoring player in the game last night. He was good. The only issue, which you and I were talking about a little bit before the show started, is even though I skipped over May and Henderson as captain options and leaned heavily into Fields, Henderson was obviously in the at the end of the day the optimal captain. I still did okay because of the amount of Fields that I had and him performing really well on a fantasy basis. But Henderson, could he have just found the end zone one less time? Because he had 19 carries for 60 yards. He only averaged 3 yards per carry for the game. He just kept falling into the end zone. They could Diggs couldn't get one. Henry couldn't get one. They all had to go to Henderson. That part was annoying. Yeah, it was brutal. I had so much of Henderson in flex. So those lineups where I had Fields at captain were still fine. It ended up being a fine night. Nothing great. I did bet the Jets, though, and we got there. Now 7-1, Greg. 7-1 divisional teams on Thursday Night Football against the spread. And also, to your point yesterday, a double-digit favorite on Thursday Night Football has still never lost. So two things can be true at the same time, huh? Yeah, and I mean, the other thing, too, the spreads for some of those games are so wide because I don't know what number it is that you bet on the Jets.
13 and a half.
Yeah, which also that was one of the ones where the number actually ended up being really important because I think it closed at 12.5. So if you bet, I saw it. At least, I don't know if it was at one point I saw it at 12.5 on FanDuel. So it was really important to actually have the 13.5 versus the 12.5. It is pretty rare that that's a number that would matter.
Well, I mean, 13 is a key number, right? So. I see what you're saying, just in the sense of, but a 27-14 score, the key numbers in football are important, man. So if that were 11.5 and 12.5, I don't think I would have even considered it. But yeah, when I bet it yesterday, when I wrote it up in tails, I was like, look, this moved through 13 because it opened at 11.5. If it moved through 13, how do we not just take the 13.5? That's a key number. So yeah, man. Anyway. Let's have some fun. Take a look at this. And yes, I agree with you. Van Dam, NYC. Mitchell missed catches. Man, there was a deep ball perfectly thrown by Fields. And when they played that replay, you're like, yep, that is clearly a drop. Clearly a drop.
Yeah, it was. I saw the highlight of that one because it was viral on Twitter. As soon as because now Adonai Mitchell, anytime he does anything boneheaded, it's just going to trend immediately on social media to make fun of him. And you see the highlight where. I think it was Al Michael said, or maybe it was Collinsworth said, I think it might have just gone through his hands.
It did.
Initially, looks like he might have overthrown him a little bit. Then you see the replay. No, perfect throw. And it just goes right through the middle of his hands.
That's exactly what happened. All right, let's do it. Common Pennies says, liking some JJ McCarthy stacks against the Bears, people will probably be off him for a poor performance. Listen, man, I said it on Tuesday in the First Look show. We built one, remember, on Wednesday that simmed out better than any other lineup when we did FanDuel. That was a double, and I think we actually went Jefferson Hawkinson. I can't remember, but it was a McCarthy double. When I said I was going to bury the lead a little bit right here at the top of the show, the spot I was talking about, Greg and Common Pennies, who made this comment, was actually JJ McCarthy, because I didn't think JJ McCarthy would pull nearly as much ownership. Yet here we are, and he is the highest projected owned player on the slate right now at the quarterback position. I mean, I never saw that coming. I loved him up until I still like him, but I loved him up until I saw this ownership. I wanted Davis Mills ownership from last week. I wanted Jake Browning from earlier in the year. I wanted one of these cheap guys, Geno Smith that we talked about the other week, right? I wanted that type of ownership. We're not even close to that.
Yeah, so this was a change in our ownership projections, but JJ McCarthy is the only quarterback that we now have projected for double-digit ownership. We've got him at 12%, Rodgers just under 10%, and our sims are showing that it's more or less warranted. The exposures that we have at the quarterback position, kind of alluding to what Loughran and I mentioned at the top of the show, it is very, very spread out. We've got 5 quarterbacks in at least 10% of lineups. Then we've got 2 other quarterbacks in Brock Purdy and Michael Penix, who are in 9 and 8% of lineups. So overall, that's 7 quarterbacks. We have at least 8% of them. There's a handful more that we have at least 5% of. So we're very spread out at the quarterback position. But yeah, JJ McCarthy is the lone QB that's pulling double-digit ownership.
If this holds through the week, it's going to be really tough for me to. And yeah, Jeremy, I agree with you. Jeremy says there's no way I'm playing chalk McCarthy. I mean, I'd have some for sure. Like, I'm not fading him, but I would like him less. You know what I'd actually be more inclined to do? I think I would be geared towards playing some Aaron Jones, honestly. If JJ McCarthy becomes this popular, like the highest owned quarterback on the slate, I really liked him going into this week a lot. You guys have watched all of these shows. He made a lot of sense in a very soft matchup. Aaron Jones played 71% of snaps last week. I think they're souring on Jordan Mason. He has not been effective. You know, really the one game Jordan Mason had, unfortunately for us, because we played a ton of him in that game against Cincinnati, that was the one good game he had. Aside from that, man, he's been pretty ineffective. He's not really involved heavily in the passing game if Aaron Jones is back. The fact that Jones came into that game last week, understandably, they were playing from behind. I get that, but still played 71% of snaps, was targeted 6 times, had 15 looks on the day. He's 5,500 in a good matchup against the Bears, where they're field goal favorites at home, coming off a rough loss, the Vikings. I would take some shots on a guy like Aaron Jones, assuming his ownership is down, because I can tell you right now, and I like these guys a lot, but Chase Brown, Jaylen Warren, Rico Dowdle, those type of guys are going to soak up a ton of ownership in that like low or high 5K to 6K range.
Yeah, so I filtered here by just our exposure to the Vikings, and you'll see we've got Aaron Jones showing up in 4% of lineups with 11% projected ownership here. But what you said, I couldn't agree with it more. Just look at the last couple of weeks. So week 9, Jordan Mason plays 60% of snaps. Aaron Jones plays 42% of snaps. So marginal lean towards Jordan Mason in terms of what the snap counts were. But something changes week 10 where they're just like, hey, this isn't going well. Let's give Aaron Jones more workload. Last week, 25% of snaps to Jordan Mason, 71% of snaps to Aaron Jones, which also doesn't even account for the fact that Jones briefly left the game with an injury and ended up coming back. So that actually probably doesn't even indicate how much of Aaron Jones was more in favor with the Vikings coaching staff.
For sure. Now, again, there's some nuance to this because they were playing from behind and they want Jones out there more when they're playing from behind. But I mean, I just think he's better. I still think he's better than Jordan Mason. And Spicy Chipotle, man, you're absolutely right about this. Aaron Jones is actually a Bears killer. There's no doubt about it. He said, I don't know if I can do it. I hear you. I get it. You guys who have watched these shows long enough know that I will die on the Aaron Jones hill. I mean, I love Aaron Jones. Not as much this year. You know, it's been tougher with Mason in the backfield. But no, I just think at 5,500, he isn't a guy that we should just overlook entirely. Sometimes you see these type of guys end up having a big game, and you're not paying a premium for Jones either. So if we're right, Greg, and he does see the usage skew heavily towards him this week, you know, like 65-35 touch count, and they play with a lead, and McCarthy is the most popular quarterback on the slate, then I could see the argument being there for Aaron Jones for sure.
Yeah. The one other thing that I think Jones is fine. I think he does make sense in some lineups as a pivot off of JJ McCarthy. The one thing though is JJ McCarthy, while he is pulling 12% ownership, that makes him the most popular quarterback. He's still actually kind of comparably owned to Aaron Jones. And then also the pass catchers aren't all that popular for the Vikings. 11% Justin Jefferson, 5% Hawkinson, 5% Jordan Addison. So I don't know how much leverage you're actually getting by playing Aaron Jones unless McCarthy's ownership or some of the Vikings pass catchers ownership goes up a little bit more, because it is a little odd that McCarthy is more popular than any of the pass catchers on his team.
I found that strange too. As a matter of fact, when I ran the Sims this morning, the highest Sims McCarthy lineup was a naked lineup, which was crazy to me. Eric, what's up, Eric? I know it's ugly. Hold on, let me see. I know it's ugly, but any Rodgers love? Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, props have him 40 yards higher than his average, 2 touchdowns. 2+ touchdowns is minus 190. Is it really? Is Rodgers touchdown prop really over 1.5 at my? Hold on. I got to figure that. I got to make sure. I believe you, but as Ronald Reagan said, Greg, trust but verify. Hold on.
I do have, while you're looking that up. So we're coming in underweights. Rodgers shows up in 5% of lineups, but he's the second most popular quarterback, 9.8% owned. I know he's a great matchup against the Bengals. I do have a little bit of concern about his ceiling, though, even though the matchup is really good. And I know the last time he played against the Bengals, he did have 4 passing touchdowns. You know, he hasn't had a single game of 250 or more passing yards this season.
Really?
Yeah, 0. He's not at a single game of 250 passing yards. And he doesn't have rushing upside either.
Get out of here. Well, okay, so let's break it all down. First of all, that's nuts. His highest passing yard game was, in fact, against Cincinnati. He had 249. But he also threw 4 touchdowns. He has 2 4-touchdown games this year, one against the Jets, one against Cincinnati. You are right, though, that is a little bit alarming. Now, $5,400, you're not paying a premium for him. And the pass catchers, this is where I think the context is really important. Because I don't agree with you, or I don't disagree with you that I'm not a huge fan of the fact that he has no more than 249 passing yards. But Metcalf is 5,700. Calvin Austin's 4K. These guys are actually very cheap. The other thing I don't like, though, is you have Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Darnell Washington. For what it's worth, last time they faced the Cincinnati Bengals, all 3 of those guys scored. And I know this because we bet Freiermuth and Washington to score. I went and looked at this. Do you know the Bengals have allowed 12 receiving touchdowns to tight ends this year? No other team has allowed more than 7. They've allowed 12 touchdowns to tight ends this year, which is one of the most insane things ever.
Yeah. And I've got the Steelers isolated in the Sims here. One of the reasons that we're getting underweight to the passing game is because we have so much exposure to Jaylen Warren. And that is my preferred way to get exposure to the Steelers offense, is with Jaylen Warren. I do think that there is a case to be made for making some Rodgers stacks that don't contain Jaylen Warren, and maybe going like Rodgers to DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin or something like that to a double stack, and fade Jaylen Warren, get some leverage in that respect. But on the whole, the reason that I don't have a ton of interest in Rodgers is second most popular quarterback on the slate. And I do think that Jaylen Warren is the best running back play by pretty good margin this weekend.
I love him this week. Mike Tomlin wants to get him the ball more. He's already said he has to get the ball more. Kenny Gainwell had 0 carries last game. It's a good matchup. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you look at the rushing plus receiving prop for Jaylen Warren, at his price point, 6,100, you'd have a very difficult time getting away from that. I mean, take a guess at what his rushing plus receiving is.
Oh, I was about to look it up, so I will put my phone down and not cheat then. So, all right. So it's clearly a high number based on what you just said. 105 yards?
Great guess. 103.5.
Okay.
But that's, I mean, for Jaylen Warren, Craig, I'm going to go out. Actually, it's not even a limb. This is undoubtedly the highest rushing plus receiving prop Warren's ever had.
And then I assume he's minus money to score a touchdown as well, right?
Gotta be. He's got to be. He's at minus 170.
Yeah, I mean, those are those are numbers that are really hard to ignore because let's see, what are some of the other running backs who are priced comparably to him on the slate? So, let's see. So Vidal, Rashad White, Chase. Yeah, I mean, like these guys who are priced around him, their numbers are going to be a fraction of his in terms of the total yard. Like a lot of these guys who are priced around him are going to have total yardage props of like 75.5, and they're going to be plus money to score a touchdown.
Yep. Although I will say, I think betting the over, I'm going to post this on Details. I already posted a couple props last night for Sunday on Details. I'm going to have more today. Greg's already posting them. So make sure you guys download the app. Link's down there in the description, right? Click it, download the app, the App Store, Google Play, whatever it may be. Do it because it's free too. Like, not free in the sense of you got to put your credit card in and then, this and that, and it's free it's free. Like, just you create a free account, you create a login. You can follow Greg, you can follow me, you can follow Ben, you can follow Eric. You can check out the leaderboards and follow all of those people over there as well, right? Like all of the guys who are smashing lately. You can see who's on a heater, who's betting certain long shots, who's trending and getting the most follows. Like, you can really curate an awesome follow list. You can turn on notifications. We have custom notifications coming soon. I assume a lot of you guys will like that as well. So as you would with like YouTube or X, you can turn on notifications for some people. Some experts turn them off for others. But if you're not over there, give Greg and myself a follow. And if you are over there, appreciate all of you guys who have been kind enough to take a few minutes out of your day to rate the app and review it. We've been getting a lot of those coming in recently. And I want to say, I'm pretty certain it's thanks to most of you guys who watch our DFS shows, right? And like watch our shows on the betting channel and our videos, because you guys have been an incredible community. And those of you who took a little bit, that's been Clayton. Exactly. What we charge you is leaving a 5-star rating and a positive comment, which isn't actually true in the sense that you're not obligated to do that, obviously, but that's all we ask from you. If you like the app and it's something that you're working into your process, even if it's a couple days a week or every single day, that's been awesome. And I don't know, Greg, I think the platform that we're building over there and the community is awesome. So I just want people to come over and check it out regardless.
And then just a little bit of like inside baseball for you guys. For each time you guys leave a 5-star rating or a review, that bumps it up a little bit in the App Store and how often it gets recommended to people. Then more people use the app, and that gives us more ability to add features to the app and make it a better experience. So that's why we ask people to leave those reviews. It does help us a lot.
Big time. Speaking of this, though, I'm going to post this one to Tails shortly, I think. It is Chase Brown over rushing plus receiving. And the reason I think this spot looks so appealing this week, Greg, Samaje Perine, even coming off of the bye, still isn't practicing with that high ankle. He got knocked out of last game pretty early. If you look at the amount of snaps that Chase Brown played last time the Bengals were on the field, 96% of snaps. 96, dude. 65 snaps out of 68 offensive snaps. Taj Brooks played 3. Samaje Perine played 1 total snap. And from everything I saw, Perine is still not practicing. So I understand right now Chase Brown might not project insanely well. He's about plus 130 to score, 78, 79, actually 82.5 rushing plus receiving on DraftKings. It may not be the best matchup, although last time he faced the Pittsburgh Steelers, he had himself a pretty solid game despite kind of limited touches. I think Chase Brown also looks pretty good here at 5,700. Just another guy to consider. At the very least, take a look at some of those props, because if Perine is out, you may see another 90+% snap share this week.
Yeah, could definitely end up being the case with Chase Brown, who got off to a really terrible start to the season, but he has performed considerably better with Joe Flacco, a quarterback, than Jake Browning, which has been the case for everybody on the Bengals offense.
Pretty much. By the way, somebody mentioned earlier Jefferson squeaky wheel. Not really. He's getting the grease. The grease just isn't getting on the wheel. It's not like A.J. Brown is getting targeted 3 times a week. I mean, J.J. McCarthy's targeted Jefferson on over 30% of his pass attempts over the last 2 weeks. He's just not getting the ball to him. I still like him this week, don't get me wrong, but it's more so just a good matchup and less of a squeaky wheel situation, Greg. He has 21 targets over the last 2 games. Might even be 22.
Yeah, so going through all of the recent games for J.J. McCarthy, 12 targets, 9 targets, 11 targets, 10 targets, 11 targets, 11 targets. The issue here is not that he.
Well, a lot of that was
Wentz.
Wentz. A lot of that was Wentz.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, 12 targets last week, right?
Oh,
Like,
I know, right?
Yeah,
and 9 the week before.
Consistently getting the ball thrown to him. This has just been a down year for Justin Jefferson. So now part of it, yes, the quarterback play is worse. Carson Wentz, JJ McCarthy, they're not nearly as good as what Sam Darnold was last year. But also, I don't know the exact amount of catchable balls Justin Jefferson has seen this year relative to last year. But from some of the plays that I've seen, he's just not making the plays. He's had high leverage drops. There are times where I don't know, like there's definitely some misthrown balls his way, but there's also been plays that he could make that he just hasn't made that he's made in previous years.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, catchable ball rate's down. I've watched a lot of those games. I know for a fact it is. But you're right. Wentz is better for him. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I still like Jefferson this week, but it's not that he's not getting opportunities. All right, let's go ahead and go through some of our quarterback and stack exposures. We haven't looked at it yet, really in depth. I know it's going to be some McCarthy. How much of guys like Josh Allen are we getting? You know, how much of like Mahomes are we getting against Denver? This is what I'm interested in seeing.
So do you want to see the QB exposures first, or just the individual stack exposures? Because for both of them kind of been going back and forth there. But I mean, we've got, I mentioned this at the top, so many quarterbacks that we're getting at least 5% exposure to. By far the most I can remember in any slate this season.
Sorry, by far the most what that you can remember? Cheap quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks that we're getting at least 5% exposure
to.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them.
I'll tell you what stands out to me the most too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. That's nuts. 6 of the top 7 exposed quarterbacks that we have, all 8+%, are under $6,000 this week. McCartney, Flacco, Brissett, Mills, Purdy, and Penix Jr. As a matter of fact, 3 of them are below $5K.
Yeah. Cheap QBs. On the expensive end, you've got Josh Allen. I mean, still, because just how spread out it is, if you look at the most expensive quarterbacks, we still have 7% of Josh Allen, still have 10% of Mahomes, still have 5% of Stafford, 5% of Herbert. So it's not like we aren't getting these guys. It's just really spread exposures at the position for us.
Yeah, I'll put myself out there. I know he's not having the greatest year. The Bills in general have had some underwhelming spots. I want to get overweight on Josh Allen this week. I mean, can you sort by ownership? I assume he'll still be like top 5, but he's definitely not popping as far as ownership goes.
Yeah, he is the 5th most popular quarterback on the slate, and we're in line with the field, 7% ownership. He's in 7% of our lineups at the moment.
I'm willing to roll the dice on some overweight Josh Allen exposures this week. I know it hasn't been wonderful, but I mean, you have to win this game. Right now, if you look at the standings, they're 6th in the AFC. The Patriots just won another game, right? So the Patriots, what are the Patriots now? 8-2, 9-2, Greg. Patriots are 9-2. The Bills are 6-3. Now, this isn't to say that the Bills need to win their division. I'm not saying that, but they're 6-3. You have other teams that are, essentially breathing down their neck. The Chiefs are 5-4 right now. That's crazy that they're only 5-4. They're 3rd in their own division. But Chargers 7-3, Broncos 8-2, Colts 8-2, Chargers 5-4. Ravens are another one of those teams that can absolutely just go on a crazy win streak. Bills 6-3, Patriots 9-2. So, I mean, I have zero doubt that the Bills are going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying that, but these are really important games right now. No one expected the Patriots to be 9-2 and 3, essentially what are they, 2.5 games up in the division now? It's an important game. This has to be a get right spot for the Bills, and Baker Mayfield and the Bucs are the type of team that can really draw you into a shootout. So I know that Kincaid probably doesn't play. I know the weapons on this team are really underwhelming. But Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir, skinnies to me, I'm going to have a tough time getting away from that this week.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to look at, of the Josh Allen lineups, who do we have him stacked with the most? So we've got Josh Allen. Yeah, Shakir's the one who shows up the most. We've got him in 9% of lineups.
How did I know Jeff Williams, the ultimate troll, although I like this guy because he does it in stride. He's not a dick. He's just, he says, I'll put myself out there. I'll take a top 5 MVP quarterback and MVP quarterback this year with the face pump. Jeff, and then he says, love you, Laffy. Yeah, you too, brother. But here's what I'm saying. The reason I said I'll put myself out there is because I pay attention to the sentiment around DFS and what people are saying, right? And the amount of people that got burned on Josh Allen last week, and really the amount of people who have been burned on Josh Allen at times throughout this season. I don't think it's crazy to say that Josh Allen is not necessarily a contrarian play this week, because I certainly wouldn't go that far, but that people aren't really enamored with this guy anymore, right? People aren't feeling the Josh Allen love like they did last year. He's had 130 fantasy point game this year. That was week 1 in that super fluky game against Baltimore. Aside from that, he's been fine, but he hasn't been. I think there are going to be a lot of people out there this week who, even though he leads this whole slate in fantasy points per game, and a lot of that's skewed by his week 1 game, I just think, Greg, there's going to be a lot of people who are, kind of averse or resistant to getting to Josh Allen at 7K when you have all of these 5K and sub 5K options. That's what I feel.
So in general, I don't disagree with that. Here is the one issue I have. And actually somebody brought this up in chat as well. Dalton. Dalton spelled a little bit differently, but
he's always in chat.
Dalton, at first I looked at it, I just thought it was Dalton Schultz, like spelled the same as the tight end for the Texans. We are currently expecting snow during that game and wind up to 30 miles per hour. That is something that is going to make me not all that inclined to play the Buffalo passing game if that weather holds.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. But all right, also,
I mean, that's just what the current forecast is. So I wanted to bring it up.
No, and I'm glad you did. Look, anytime, if I miss something, if anyone misses something, I'm more than willing to take anything anybody says in chat into account here. I do want to point this out, though. The Bills still have like a 27-point implied total right now. That could change, right? If you think the weather is going to be a problem, go grab the under 47.5 right now. I think that makes plenty of sense. But at the same time, the team total for the Buffalo Bills right now is, let me pull it up. It's 26.5. So that's still going to be one of the highest on, probably going to be one of the highest on the slate, Greg. The Steelers 27.5, Vikings 25, Packers 25. I think is it the highest on the entire slate? I think it is.
I think Pittsburgh is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Behind Pittsburgh. Yeah. Well, I just said Pittsburgh 27.5. But besides that, I think it's the second highest total on the slate. It is.
Rams also, maybe, I think, depending where you look. But
I see 26.5. So it's tied with the Bills.
Okay. Yeah. There are definitely ones that are close, like the 49ers. But yeah, I would be most inclined. First, I'm going to keep my eye on the weather, but like as of right now, I'd be most inclined to take the under on that Bills team total, just considering what the weather reports are.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I'm saying, this total could plummet, and then you're getting a really good spot if you bet the over under now. But at the time, it hasn't moved. Anyway, Tiffany, thank you for the super chat as always. Greg, well done on the Fields TD bet. Yeah. Laffy, get your Metlock bet it. Thank you, Tiffany. I will do that. I got to see what the Scott Matlock odds are. When I get my first big GPP win, everyone over there is getting a Matlock jersey. That'd be amazing, by the way. That would be incredible. Always appreciate the work you guys put into the shows. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for the support. Total touchdowns. Let's see what Scott Matlock's prop is. Ooh, 20-1, Greg. I am just going to start betting it every week if I can remember. All right.
I
So,
just want to, sorry, there was just
go
one
ahead.
thing I wanted to bring up here. Jeremy Savage says, I thought we debunked weather a while ago. In terms of what?
Yeah. Well, the debunking weather is essentially when people ignore Vegas and when they ignore the line movement or lack thereof. So like someone could go, man, the weather looks bad in this game, but the total's pegged at 50.5 and hasn't moved. You don't think a total is going to move significantly if the weather's a real issue? There are other times where the weather can significantly impact the game. There's no doubt about it. So it's really different. Jeremy, only rain matters. No, of course not. That's not true, man. That's not true. Especially when you've got lake effect snow. When you have that lake effect snow coming off, what is it, Lake Erie up there? That's significant because you get those crazy blustery winds. You have heavy snow. So no, I mean, snow matters, rain matters, wind matters. It really just matters how significant it is. That's all.
Yeah, there's a lot of studies that have been done on it. 100%. Well, I guess I shouldn't say 100% because that could be confusing. It absolutely does matter. It's just to varying degrees. But like wind matters, cold matters. I just pulled one thing up right here. So, for example, games that have a temperature of under 25 degrees on average see an 8% reduction in points scored. And then the most significant aspect is wind. Like if you guys have ever seen a wind game, there's no way to say that it has no impact. If it's marginal wind, sure, that doesn't matter. But once this game, you've got wind expected to be potentially as high as 30 miles per hour. That is absolutely impactful on scoring. I'll see if I could find a study on the wind. But
when you do, by the way, for the people saying it's factored into the total, though, exactly. But the total's factored into the projections, right? So our projections are factoring the total and all of that stuff in. So yeah.
Yeah, and then also oftentimes you see that over the course of the week, if the wind, because another thing too, wind, rain, snow, it's variable to change, right? The reports, it's not like somebody goes, oh, there's a 100% chance of this amount of wind. So as it gets closer and you have a better idea for how accurate the weather report is or isn't, then it has more of an impact on the total. But if we do get to Sunday and we have the same weather that's projected to be now, then I'm pretty confident the total is going to drop.
Oh yeah. Rance mentioned Jordan Love as well. I think Jordan Love's interesting this week. I agree. It's just, who do you throw to? Romeo Dobbs is at a good price. I like him. I think Romeo Dobbs perfectly reasonable price in a spot like this. Are we getting any Jordan Love?
I didn't really see. No, we don't have any Jordan Love lineups here. None.
Wow. I thought we would. They have a high total this week against the Giants.
Yeah, none of them. Their total against actually, yeah. So like their individual total is pretty high. The Giants team total is not because the total for the game is only 42.5. But the Packers are 7-point favorites. Total wild card with Jameis Winston out there that could lead to
total wild card.
I actually kind of think that I want to have a little bit of exposure to Love and Winston just because of the Winston effect, where if you get the old Jameis Winston where he's just throw the ball downfield and just hope it goes to somebody, like Jameis Winston he's like the triple-double of the NFL, where it's like, oh, look, 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I know it's not the same as like an NBA triple-double, but he puts up stat lines nobody else does, for better or worse.
Tough matchup, though. Really tough matchup. But yeah, he does. Let's take a look at running backs. We already discussed a lot of these guys. Jaylen Warren, Chase Brown. We can get into a bunch more, but you have Rico Dowdle as well, who's another one of these guys that last week was absolutely disappointing, but I'm not sure how much that matters. I kind of like the Falcons in this game. kind of like guys like Pitts. I like Bijan to bounce back. But if you go to running backs and see what we're getting, my guess is a lot of our exposure is concentrated around a handful of guys. I mean, clearly Jaylen Warren, Chase Brown, McCaffrey's workload has been pretty insane. Rico Dowdle. Okay, we are getting some Bijan, but man, it kind of falls off a cliff after that.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard to have too much exposure to other running backs when Jaylen Warren shows up in nearly 100%. And I even have uniques on for these lineups that I've selected, but with Jaylen Warren being in nearly 100% of lineups, I mean, that means you've only got one running back and one flex spot left for the remaining running backs. So we've got Rico Dowdle. He's showing up in lineups again. His rushing yardage prop opened at 88.5. It's come down a little bit. It was 86.5 when I checked this morning, but obviously still a very substantial number. The two players with the highest rushing total props of the entire week were Travion Henderson and Rico Dowdle. Travion Henderson missed his pretty significantly, so at least based on the numbers, Rico Dowdle is expected to have the most rushing yards of anybody for the entire week. But still, Jaylen Warren at $6,100 with his passing game upside in 94% of lineups just kind of leaves limited amounts of spots left. So we get over 20% of McCaffrey, over 20% of Chase Brown, just slightly underweights the field to both of them relative to their ownership, but concentrated exposures overall.
Dalton says, Woody, I liked him earlier in the week. I mentioned that snap count, massive discrepancy with Nick Chubb. Huge difference last week. Mark's got the bulk of the opportunities. But then you had Houston's offensive coordinator after the game saying that wasn't by design. That worries me a little bit. It was just, Woody Marks was having a good game, but they didn't plan on doing that. Could it just be coach speak? Sure, but I don't. Yeah, like Rooster said, I like Woody after what he did to the Titans last time they played. Sure. I just wanted to point out there that this apparently was not by design, and I'm not nearly as confident early in the week that last week's results are going to be indicative of what we see this week. So something to keep in mind. Matt, if you put $1, so if you max the 20 max $1 and use the same stack in every lineup, what would it be? It would probably be some variation of Josh Allen for me.
By the way, the rushing yardage prop for Woody Marks is 61.5.
Yeah, it's not bad, but even Chubb, though, is still in the 30s.
Yeah, 33.5 for Chubb. And then for the touchdown odds, it is Woody Marks plus 145, Chubb plus 200. There's also a very possible, maybe even likely reality that they still give Chubb the goal line touches to not have that wear and tear go to Woody Marks.
Could be. Ray said Houston was trailing massively. I mean, yes and no. Marks still saw 14 carries, not targets, 14 carries to Chubb's 5. So even if you want to talk about the game flow, he still had almost 3 times the amount of carries on the ground that Nick Chubb had, which to me is significant. But yeah.
By the way, circling back on one thing, because I found some studies, I put it into ChatGPT. So overall, over the course of NFL history, comparing weather reports, 0 to 10 mile per hour winds, no difference on the average amount of points that teams are expected to score. 10 to 15 mile per hour winds, teams on average lose 1 point versus their seasonal average. 15 to 20 mile per hour winds, teams on average lose 3 points off their average score. 20 to 25 mile per hour winds, they lose 6 points off their average amount of points per game. 25 plus mile per hour winds, teams lose 10 points on average compared to their normal scoring. So,
a lot.
Yeah. So minimal amounts of winds don't really matter. But once you get to 20 plus miles per hour, then you're talking about 20 to 25 miles per hour, teams lose about a touchdown. 25 plus miles per hour, teams losing a touchdown and a field goal.
It's a lot. It's absolute. Now, gusts are different than sustained winds, but still, yeah. Dalton, D'Amico said he wants to give him more work. Totally understood, but also understand that a lot of that's baked into the props already. Also, I'm not saying Woody Marks is a bad play. I'm just saying the 60 plus rushing yards prop is definitely baking in additional work this week. He has a prop line that's almost 2x what Nick Chubb is.
You also have to keep in mind that Woody Marks' workload has been pretty light overall for the season. So when a coach says we're going to get him more work, but for the season, he's averaging under 10 carries per game, you give him 13 carries and you've increased his workload by like 30% over average for the season.
Yep, exactly. Hohei, who do you like at flex, RJ Harvey or Chase Brown? Personally, Chase Brown. J.K. Dobbins isn't going to play this week. It'd be shocking if he did, but even so, it's a really tough matchup, man. And that Denver offense has looked stagnant. So, yeah, it would be Chase Brown for me. That is assuming Samaje Perine is out. If Perine is out, it's hard to not like Chase Brown. Really hard not to like him this week.
Yeah, $5,700. I mean, he's 27% owned, so right now we're just slightly underweight to the field, but then if we took Perine out of the projections, he would come up a little bit higher. So Chase Brown, if you're looking for an alternative to Jaylen Warren in like that mid-range, then I think your best option is Chase Brown. Second best option, RJ Harvey. But those are the three guys that I think make the most sense in that price range. I just don't like Harvey as much as Brown or Warren.
Agreed. Any other running backs? We talked about Aaron Jones. For those of you guys tuning in late, you can always start from the beginning. We bounce around a little bit here, but try and cover everything. I do like Bijan, Greg. I know he's been underwhelming, and it sucks that Tyler Algier eats into his workload quite often. But at the end of the day, you still have a guy that's playing. I mean, he played 96% of snaps in week 9. He played 86% of snaps last week. He's not finding the end zone and having those monster games that you'd like to see. The one he had against the Bills obviously stands out. It was his best scrimmage yard game of his career. He has been underwhelming. There's no doubt about it. But this to me still feels like a spot where I'd be willing to go back to him as a 3.5 point home favorite against the Carolina team that I largely think is not for real.
Yeah, I don't have any kinds of issues with that at all. On the high end of running back, we talked about Christian McCaffrey and his projection on Wednesday. Interestingly, it's actually come down a little bit with Brock Purdy now expected to be the quarterback as opposed to it being Mac Jones at quarterback, but he still projects quite a bit higher than everybody else on the slate. It's still a 25 fantasy point projection for Christian McCaffrey. He's not a must play, but if you have the ability to spend up, he shows up in 24% of lineups. That about makes sense to me.
You know what's crazy about McCaffrey this year? He doesn't have a 20-yard run. The San Francisco 49ers do not have a 20-yard run as a team this season. Brian Robinson's actually been the better running back on the ground. Dead serious. I saw this thing like outside of the tackles. He's been way better than Christian McCaffrey. And, he's averaging 3.55 yards per contact after attempt. McCaffrey's at 2.39. Super low. I wouldn't be shocked if they start giving Brian Robinson Jr. some more work on the ground. That's not to say that McCaffrey's not going to still see a massive workload, right? For sure. But he just hasn't been good on the ground, man. He has not been explosive at all. This is crazy. He has 180 attempts this year. 10-plus yard runs he has on 8% of his rushing attempts. He's like strictly a volume and a touchdown guy. The volume's just so massive that it hasn't mattered.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the volume matters so much because, good is relative, right? Like that can mean so many different things, but he has not been efficient running the football.
No.
But when you're getting almost all of the goal line touches, you're getting 8 to 9 targets per game, and you still get 20 rushing attempts. It's kind of hard to have bad games.
Yeah, it is. I bet the over on Brian Robinson Jr. rushing yards, though, 16.5.
Interesting.
16.5, yeah. I mean, he's been actually pretty good. Hey, Greg, what if I told you that everybody could get access to The Sims for an entire month, essentially for free? What would you do?
I'd call baloney. There's no way.
Like Paul Winford, who hit us up yesterday, $200,000. Like all of these monster wins we've had in the recent weeks, all of these, right? Like Kevin, just signed up for Caesars, got a free month, and already did this. He played $15 in the play action. Dude took down, chopped first place with another Stokastic avatar as well. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. Well, actually, here's what I'll tell you. There's just no more of a no-brainer way to get the tools and to also collect deposit matches or bonus bets. You can do it if you're not in a legal betting state. Like Onyx is a sweepstakes book available in 40+ states. Sleeper, Underdog, Better, those are out there as pick'em sites, pick'em DFS sites. DraftKings Pick Six, all of this stuff. All you got to do is use that link in the description. That's it. And I know a lot of you guys watching now have taken advantage of this because you've mentioned it to us on many occasions. And some of you just continue to tack them on and essentially free roll and add month over month, because every one of these equals an entirely new month of the Sims. So if you signed up for Onyx, right? You sign up for Onyx, you get your bonuses when you sign up there. You got to click claim offer or we can't track you. Simply follow these 4 steps. Greg, all you do is you place a bet. When it settles, send us your screenshots. It's the support@stokastic.com with your first settled bet and your welcome email, and get a free month of the Sims, whatever sport you want. That's it.
It's that easy. It's that easy. And we see these screenshots all the time where somebody's like, hey, signed up, which we just said some of them on the screen. How many times per week do we get these screenshots people send us? We're like, hey, took advantage of the free month of the Sims, first day, won $5,000, won $3,000, won $10,000, and the whole sub, it's paid for itself for forever, pretty much.
Yeah. And obviously I don't like to mislead people. Not everybody's going to use the tools in their first day that you win $5,000, but it's happened with a lot of people. And the tools at the very least are going to put you with a competitive edge you may not have had before. Because DFS in this time, it's no longer 2013. DFS in 2025, man, it's a different game. Having access to these Sims, especially, man, if you're low stakes players, being able to utilize these type of tools in low stakes contests where most people have never even heard of these Sims, have no access to tools. They're just firing from the hip. Massive advantage. And all of these are like $5 or $10 minimum deposits. So, you're getting your bonus. You might even win your bet. And then not only are you free rolling, but you're profitable before you even set your first lineup. So be sure to check that out if you haven't done so yet. All right, wide receivers, Greg, what are we at here?
Yeah, so moving over to the wide receiver position, and running back, there wasn't really all that much to talk about. Concentrated spot there. Jaylen Warren looks really good. Wide receiver, here's what's an interesting conversation. No Marvin Harrison, appendectomy. He's not going to be playing this week. Obviously not taken into account in the pricing algorithm because Marvin Harrison was finally starting to play a little bit better, and there was zero expectation there was even a chance he was going to miss this game. So now Michael Wilson is $3,800. He's showing up as our most rostered wide receiver. But I do think we should dig in a little bit to the Cardinals pass catchers to figure out what it is we actually want to mine out here, because this is the most obvious value situation on the slate.
So the Michael Wilson spot is clearly significant. He's already been on the field a ton. Mm-hmm. And he's already, interestingly enough, if you look at Michael Wilson, he hasn't been good, but he catches most of the balls thrown his way. He has a nice ADOT, yards per reception, like all of those kind of basic stats they've been pretty good. At that price point, I think he's very, very reasonable. I mean, he has a receiving yards prop close to 50. I know he'll get some ownership, but San Francisco's secondary has not been very good either. To me, I do think he's a very viable value play with Marvin Harrison Jr. out this week. I really do. Richie says Dortch, smash spot. Yeah, Dortch is fine too. I have no problem with Greg Dortch, but they're pretty similar in price. And Michael Wilson has already been kind of I don't want to say integral role in this offense, but he's getting he's getting enough work, and he's not terrible, man. So I do like him this week. I think he'll be real quick. I do think he'll absolutely be higher on than 14.5% though. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other thing too is the Cardinals don't have healthy everybody got hurt at the same time. So here are the snap counts from last week. 91% to Marvin Harrison. He's out though. Then you got 92% of snaps played by Michael Wilson. Zay Jones, he had been playing 50 to 70% of snaps. He's out for the season now. So now you're taking Zay Jones out of the mix at the same time as Marvin Harrison. Greg Dortch, he played 39% of snaps. He's healthy now. And then you've got Fahiko. He was playing 28% of snaps last week, and he got hurt. So there are only a few healthy pass catchers for the Cardinals. I assume that they're going to call some guys up from the practice squad ahead of Sunday's game. But I want to have a lot more of Greg Dortch than the 6% we have here. I presume he's going to be more than 3% owned. Like you said, I also think that Michael Wilson is going to be more than 14% owned. But I like Wilson and Dortch. Obviously, McBride's going to make sense as well. But for these wide receivers, they're all cheap, and the Cardinals have very few guys to go to right now.
you can't really get away from it. I'm with you. RJ Hilliard, remember you heard it here first. It's Rashid Shaheed week. Actually, you heard it here second because Andy Francis and I did a show this week where we laddered Rashid Shaheed, Craig. A little fun ladder on Rashid Shaheed, but it's, I don't know, for DFS purposes, 4,900. I don't hate it, especially if you look to take JSN. Dude, JSN's receiving prop is over 100 yards this week, which is nuts. I don't hate the idea of Rashid Shaheed, but I don't think I'm going to have a ton of him, honestly. I also want to see if Torrey Horton is in or out, right? He's still not practicing. My guess is he doesn't play. I think Shaheed could be a sneaky value play if he doesn't get. Did he not pop up? Or we're just not getting any of
it. We don't have many lineups. That's why he didn't show up.
Last week was a little bit tricky, though. Sam Darnold threw the ball 12 times. 12 times. That's insane.
I mean, you guys know I've been a JSN guy this year, and pretty much every slate I end up being really heavy on JSN. I thought JSN was going to crush last week, the end of the first quarter. I think he had 4 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. And the Seahawks just didn't throw the ball the rest of the game. Their defense scored 2 touchdowns, so the offense wasn't even on the field that much. They just steamrolled last week. And then to your point, Darnold only ends up throwing the ball 12 times. Still enough for JSN to almost have 100 yards and a touchdown. Crazy. But that's like a floor outcome for him these days.
It makes no sense, man. He's just so good. Go to wide receiver one more time. Just filter it before we.
Yeah, we're here.
No, because it's not though. It shows it. But
yeah, never mind. Okay, yeah, that's weird. Okay, there we go.
So Chase, Wilson up top, Puka Nacua, tough spot, but he's just so good. Rashee Rice, another tough spot, but you're not going to have Patrick Surtain, so there's that. You know what I kind of like, though? I kind of like the idea of getting to some Xavier Worthy this week. Vance Joseph in Denver did such a remarkable job of taking Brock Bowers out of that game. If they key in on somebody like Rashee Rice, which is possible, you might see Xavier Worthy at sub 5K have a decent game, and he's not going to be popular at all. So somebody asked, what are some decent cheap pivots? Sub 5K, I think Xavier Worthy is actually a pretty damn good one.
Yeah, Worthy, at the very least, big play upside. That is something that we know for sure with him. He's been disappointing to me this year. I thought that he was going to elevate into a really elite sort of fantasy receiver, but he gets hurt earlier on in the season, wasn't really able to establish himself as a top-end guy. Then Rashee Rice came back, and immediately it was apparent, Rashee Rice is one of the top 10 or so wide receivers in the league, and Worthy just hasn't been as involved, but it doesn't eliminate the big play upside that he has. So at $4,900, 6% ownership, I agree with you. I think he's worth taking GPP shots on.
I don't like Nico as much as last week. I still like him. I don't know if I want to go back to try and, catch lightning in a bottle again with the Mills stack. I think he's fine. I liked him last week a little bit more, though, at home. DK looks pretty good. London's always fine. Romeo Dobbs, we have 8%. I like Dobbs this week. Tucker Kraft on the IR, done for the year. Dobbs in a good matchup against the Giants. I think there's decent value in those ranges.
Yeah, nobody that's as comparable to Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch to me, but in the mid-range, there's some guys that stand out. One thing that is interesting for today compared to when we built lineups on Wednesday, Laffy, is because we have the Michael Wilson value and him showing up in a lot of lineups, this does mean that it's a little bit easier for us to pay up for the stud wide receiver. So as a result, Jamar Chase showing up in 53% of lineups, Puka in 36%, Rashee Rice in 26%. Interestingly, the only high-end wide receiver we are not getting very much of is JSN, only 10%. He's also modestly owned with 16% ownership. If I am entering my lineups right now, this is the first guy at wide receiver. Him and Greg Dortch are the first 2 guys, I should say, at wide receiver that I'm giving ROI boost to get more exposure to, because JSN's ceiling and floor is so ridiculous to me. If he's actually going to be not all that popular this week, I think that's a really good pivot. I mean, you get Jamar Chase is 33% owned, but you get JSN at less than half of the ownership. That's a pivot I like.
Me too. No issue. Anytime there's just a great player in a tough matchup that's getting less ownership, you can count me in. All right, tight ends. What do we got at tight end? And then we'll take a look at some of these lineups, see how many 2 tight end builds we're getting, see what type of stacks are popping up the most before we go. Kyle Pitts. I knew it. I like Pitts this week.
Yeah. One other change that we should mention from Wednesday, in case people are watching this show after Wednesday's show, is earlier in the week, it looked like Gadsden with the knee injury wasn't going to end up playing. After he practiced in full, I feel pretty good about Gadsden being out there on Sunday now.
Yeah, agreed. I was the one who said I thought he wouldn't play, but
I agreed, though. I agreed at the time.
Yeah. But I like him. Trey McBride, obviously, in a spot like this. Family Man said we could very well just have McBride get 12 targets and Mike Wilson get 2. Yeah. Or you could see this be a spot where San Francisco looks to take McBride out of the game and Michael Wilson gets a whole lot more. Or they could all just get a decent amount.
The one thing I would add to what Family Man is saying there is, like, nobody's targets are ever set in stone. Weird things happen all the time. But you still have to figure out where the rest of those targets are going because they only have a few healthy guys on the entire team.
Right.
So you've still got another like 10 to 15 targets. You have to figure out where they're going in the offense outside of that. So even if you go 12 targets to McBride, 2 targets to Michael Wilson, all right, well, who's getting the other 10 to 15 targets? Like, are they going to Greg Dortch? Is it getting, like DeMarcado? Is he getting some of the backfield? Is getting spread around? There's a lot of available targets in that passing game, considering all the guys who are out there went over before.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't mind Hawkinson this week. I wish I liked him less, but I think he's a pretty decent play. We'll see if Ricky Pearsall's back. We're still getting some George Kittle, little Kelsey, Theo Johnson, Kate Otten. I think Kate Otten's fine. He gets targeted a lot when you have guys like Otten or Godwin and Evans off the field. That's notable. Every time that happens, even though they still have Ibuka, doesn't Otten have like over 20 targets in his last 2 games? So I think he does.
Yeah, last couple of games, Kate Otten close to it.
17. Well, the one before that, if you include, he had 9, 5, and 12. Okay, pretty good.
Yeah, big time. But also, the 12 target game last week, that's obviously massive for him.
Yeah. All right, should we see some lineups before we go and just see what type of builds we're getting to?
Absolutely. So if we go over to the lineups here, let's see what we've got for top lineups. Interestingly, the ones at the top, both Casey +2, Mahomes with Rice and Kelsey. This one also is Mahomes with Rice and Kelsey. But overall, not surprising considering our QB exposures. It's pretty spread out, other than the Chiefs occupying a little bit of a higher amount of the absolute top MRI lineups.
Is Mahomes' ownership just projected to be really low this week?
Let's see.
That's pretty 6%. Low for him. Yeah, not super low, but we must have him. Let me see if I can pull the boom bust tool up real quick.
Yeah, so top lineup here, it is their top couple of lineups are both Mahomes +2 lineups. Then it is a Rams +2 lineup. Matt Stafford to Puka Nacua and Tyler Higbee. Let's see what else stands out. If anything more, Chiefs +2. Is it the same? Also, these Chiefs +2. Oh, no, this one is Worthy and Kelsey. So this one's kind of interesting and maybe jives with what you had said before, Lofty, but fading of Rashee Rice in this lineup. And instead of Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelsey, so it's Mahomes, Warren Dowdle, Wan'Dale Robinson, Xavier Worthy, Michael Wilson, Travis Kelsey, Christian McCaffrey, Titans defense. I like that lineup a lot, actually.
So do I. Love that lineup. You get the discount on Wilson. You have Warren and Dowdle. Yeah. Am I in love with Wan'Dale? No, but I think he's fine. Kelsey, McCaffrey. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. There's no run back, but I have no problem there. That's pretty sweet. 3 really nice running backs. You're going cheap at wide receiver. That's the only weird thing. Like, very cheap across all of wide receiver, but no Rashee Rice double stack for the Chiefs. That actually is pretty sweet.
Yeah. And then to your point, yeah, instead of spending up at wide receiver, you're spending up at running back there with Christian McCaffrey and Rico Dowdle. Let's see. We've got a Falcons triple stack in here. That's Penix, Mooney, London, and Pitts. But for the most part, the top lineups are QB +2 stacks. There aren't that many QB +3 showing up this week.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, Patrick Mahomes, third most positively leveraged quarterback on the slate. So I'm looking at the boom bust data right now.
Who are 1 and 2?
Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
So but also much lower boom scores than Patrick Mahomes as well.
One thing to, just because this is news that just came across, Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin both practicing today. So seems like they are going to be active on Sunday.
Wait, full or limited? Because they were limited yesterday as well. And Todd Bowles said he did not expect them to play this week.
Just as they're participating in practice. So
yeah,
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But I think that's a positive trend for them come Friday, because often if somebody is limited on Thursday and they're not expected to play, it doesn't mean that they will play, but they usually just get held out of practice on Friday.
Yeah. All I'm saying is he was back at practice yesterday as well, but limited. So we'll see. We'll know sooner than later, but good call out just in case because I assume we have both of them projected out right now, as we should have, because Todd Bowles literally said earlier in the week that he didn't expect them to play. But yeah, that's a good shout out, because if they do play, that could change some things for sure. It would make me like Josh Allen even more, honestly.
Yeah, potentially could make for a higher scoring game, but we'll see what ends up happening. If there's any, I wouldn't be surprised if they, because right now they're considered doubtful. I wouldn't be surprised if they get upgraded to questionable later.
All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's about it for me. Anything you think we missed?
No, I think we hit on everything. Yeah, I mean, we've been here for over an hour, so I think we're on point. It's a fun slate. It's a unique slate because of all of the cheap quarterbacks that are in play. Not a ton of value right now, but some good running backs in the low 6K, mid 5K range. Michael Wilson's opening some things up. JJ McCarthy's far more popular than I ever would have expected. No, it's I think that's it. But we'll do this for Jake before we go. He said, let's just take a gander at defense, special teams exposure. My hope is that it's just super flat. A lot of Titans.
Yeah, a lot of Titans, which, I mean, Texans have a shitty offensive line, and it is still Davis Mills at quarterback. So, he played well last week. Loughran was all over that. That was a great call out, but punting with them, that's pretty reasonable. I assume that by the time we come to Sunday, it'll be a little bit flatter. There are a handful of cheap defenses that show up here. Titans, Broncos, Cardinals, Chargers. I mean, I hate defense, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
We have to play them.
Got to do it. Wish we didn't. Anyway, you guys are the best. Appreciate you. We'll see you over there on Tails. Make sure you create that free account. Come follow us. Turn on notifications as well. Leave a rating and a review. For those of you who have had, thank you in advance. Or actually not in advance. For those of you who are going to, thank you in advance. You got NBA Live Before Lock Deeper Dive tonight. Make sure to check out Josh's new version of the strategy show that went live earlier this morning. That's a great one. And we'll see you back here Sunday. It all culminates. Big 4-hour stream. You don't want to be anywhere else. We'll catch you there soon. Have a great weekend, everyone.